Good afternoon and welcome to our last meeting of the month. We will have an invocation tonight by Councilman Luis Martinez, and respects to the flag will be led by Councilman Jeff Roberts. Please rise.
Father God, we come to you today with humble hearts, asking for you to continue to bless this wonderful city in Anderson that you know we love. I ask for you to please protect my council leaders and friends that are here in this room. Grant us the wisdom and the courage that we can continue to do right by Anderson and the constituents that live in it. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes of our April 10th meeting have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Not hearing any, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
First by Dr. Thompson,
Second.
second by the Mayor Pro Tem. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of April 10th passed unanimously. We don't have any old business, and we have 4 or 5 items of new business. And the first item of new business is request referral to the Planning Commission of petition to rezone 3.5 acres at 196 Woodburn Avenue and an adjacent .1717 acre parcel from R10 single family residential to NC neighborhood commercial. Mr. McEwen.
Mr. Mayor and Council, the first 2 items here are both referrals to the Planning Commission. While that's not mandated by our code or state law, it is our process that we do is to go through the referral process from the body of council. So you see the item first before it goes to the Planning Commission. And with that, Mr. Maurice McKenzie, our Development Director, will speak to both of these items.
Thank you.
Thank you. The applicant is Vets Helping Vets. They're a nonprofit organization that seeks to provide support for veterans through meetings, through various community service activities. And they recently acquired this piece of property, and they currently meet in different locations, but they have grown so much, they're wanting to construct a facility of their own. Right now, they have close to 150 people attending weekly meetings. It's their proposal to just use this building for their weekly meetings for veterans groups. And the request is to ultimately construct a 4,500 square foot building with associated parking, but the property is currently zoned R10, single family residential. R10 does not allow community type centers, and that's what we classify this as. So a NC neighborhood commercial zoning for classification is what is being proposed. And as the city manager mentioned, this is a referral coming to you this evening. It starts a public process. If you refer it this evening, this will go to Planning Commission on May 2nd.
Thank you. And as Mr. McKinley said, it will come back to us, but are there any questions, quick questions or concerns, Ms. Roberts?
Quick question, is neighborhood commercial the least intrusive into a neighborhood?
Actually, we have neighborhood professional and limited office, but those zoning classifications don't allow something like this.
Okay, and also the green dotted line is city-county line, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, the pink, what you see is, well, I'm sorry, the yellow is what you see in the city, and then everything colored is inside the city limits. You're correct. On the opposite side is the county. That neighborhood commercial that you see across the street, that's the similar zoning which they're requesting. That's actually a church located there.
Yes.
And in the county, I think there's some industrial warehouses, and I don't think there's anything on that corner lot.
I think you're correct, but you're right. There's a variety of land uses through this stretch along Bleckley Street, that corridor.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a first by the Mayor Pro Tem, a second by Jeff Roberts. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously to go to the Planning Committee. The next item on the agenda is request consideration of referral to the Planning Commission, a petition to revise the PDD documents for portions of the Mayfield PDD located on Harriet Circle. Mr. McKenzie?
Thank you. This goes back 20 years, back to 2003, when the city annexed about 139 acres and zoned that property to PDD, Planned Development District, which allowed a mixture of single-family uses, multifamily uses. Also, it had language for office-related uses in portions of this property. At the time, the land was broken down into 5 development tracts. Now, over the years, a good bit of this property has been developed. You're familiar, I'm sure, with Rockwell Plantation. There's 2 phases of that. And most recently, Martin's Trail subdivision. That was also part of this original tract of land. And what we're talking about this evening is the remaining undeveloped property of this PDD, it's about 61 acres. In 2015, the City Council actually considered some PDD language changes for Tract A, which was Martin's Trail, and that was approved. Essentially, they requested to reduce the lot sizes from a minimum of 10,000 square feet to 7,800 square feet, and again, that was for the tract where you see Martin's Trail today. And what will be coming before you as we go through the process is that they're wanting to revise the PDD language for the remaining undeveloped portion of Tract A, along with Tracts B and C. And what you see highlighted, that's the entire property that we'll be discussing and what they're proposing to have revised. What they're looking to do is a single-family detached residential development. Based on some initial conversations with them, it looks around 136 lots at the time. Again, we're still getting the information in to finalize that. But the few of the requested revisions that we're certain of is that they do wish to eliminate the language that allows multifamily and office-related uses. They just want this to be a single-family residential development. And one other item they wish to do is to reduce the lot sizes from 10,000 square feet to 7,500 square feet, hoping for an average around 9,000 square feet. Now, the PDD document that was approved in 2003 is very basic. So by revising this PDD document, we have the ability, and we've had the conversations with the applicant, to add language that we've become very familiar with over the past couple of years with PDDs regarding aesthetics, layout, and things like that. So we can strengthen the document as we go through the process to add that language. Also, with them revising the PDD, this will allow us to apply the tree preservation ordinance to this as well. So that will certainly help in this regard. But again, this is a referral. We recommend it goes to the Planning Commission. Again, they will hear this on May 2nd.
And if I could, I'll just make a couple observations on this as well, and one clarification. Maurice, Tract C actually, as it's written now, allowed for medical type office buildings. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's actually more intensive. Tract C, which is the upper portion towards Greenville Street, and then you have and the back side of this where it faces Clarendon, the subdivision that's not inside the city, that Fox Creek Road. As you can see, Martin's Trail's lines it's quite a distance from the houses that back up to this. There's a creek in there. We also have a sewer line in there. There's some heavy hardwoods in there with the tree ordinance in place, and then also not getting into its wetlands as well. Not getting into the wetlands. I believe their intention would be to save all that. So, I mean, we're not getting into the wetlands, we're not getting into the easement of the sewer, not getting close to those houses there. And so I've had some conversations with a couple of those residents that I know right there that back up to it. And a couple of them already faced where Martin's Trail's developed. And they've been okay with the fact that that area would be preserved where the creek is and the hardwoods are and that kind of thing. And it's our understanding from the developer that's what they're looking to do, is not be intrusive into that area. And then we were able to, like Maurice said, And we'll talk more specifically about this when it comes back from the planning commission, but we're add in a lot of the elements where we didn't have it all, from this original PDD document back from 2003.
Good. Sounds like probably as it comes back to us with some of the things, as Mr. McKenzie said, we've kind of added into our language the last couple of years. Looking forward to it. Any questions, comments?
I'll make a quick comment on this, Mayor, just because this is in my district here. You know, this is a beautiful tract of land. It's right along where the trail's been extended. I actually walked that trail over the weekend with my family. It really is a beautiful piece. You know, all the language that we've discussed thus far seems like it'd be an improvement to what we have right now. You know, I think it's just worth commenting. You know, I'd love to kind of keep that 10,000 square foot in place. I'm not saying I wouldn't be receptive to us, you know, moving it down to 7,500 square feet if the average truly is 9,000. But, you know, I do think that's a nice area that if we can preserve some bit of that lot size, I think it would be beneficial.
Anything else? Thank
I
you.
may tag onto that.
Yes.
Maybe, I've been through Martin's Point, Martin's Trail. Martin's Trail. I thought it was very well done. Looks very nice. And they have 7,800 square foot lots. So maybe push them more toward the 7,800 square foot. That's not a big stretch. But,
And they actually, Mr. Roberts, when we worked with Martin's Trail, they were very easy to work with. They did a good job working with us, even under less restrictive PDD that they were working under. And the development process, even the construction process, we felt was very done well. I mean, it was clean site. It was managed well with the road and so forth. That sometimes we don't see those things. And with this, with the new restrictions being placed on with the tree ordinance and the other languages that we've incorporated in, it's only going to make it better.
Good comments.
I agree.
And then again, like I said, I think it's a big deal that the proposal here, it eliminates the potential medical office buildings, the other things that could come down farther into the residential area here that is already in the PDD for Tract C, and that's being eliminated completely out of this document.
I recognize that.
Very good. And I guess the land adjacent to it, how many townhomes are there on that piece of property? I couldn't.
Oh, yeah, those existing townhomes have been there
Yeah.
for a while. I need to count those, but there's a good many in there.
Just, it looked like they had more land around
Yeah, they
to
do.
develop around, cool. All right, so, any other comments?
I make a motion we send it to plan.
Well, first by the Mayor Pro Tem,
Second.
second by Mr. Martinez. And, I would just say, and I know you do this, Mr. McKenzie, but I would maybe add those two comments to the Planning Commission as far as a preference to their meeting on this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Our third item is request consideration to purchase self-contained breathing apparatus for the fire department. Ms. McEwen?
Okay, this is of course an essential need. As I was a firefighter, use these quite a lot to breathe inside dangerous conditions, and this is their oxygen. This is their oxygen tank. So without going any farther into it, I called Chief King up here to go over their request, and then we can talk a little bit more about the funding if necessary. Chief King.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. As he described, the self-contained breathing apparatus work in conjunction with a firefighter's protective clothing, their helmet, coat, pants, and boots. And essentially what this is the backpack harness and a cylinder of air that provides them an average of 45 minutes of air through a face piece of mask for them to go in and operate in either smoke or gas-filled environments to be able to do the work that firemen do. This project consists of our intent to replace 33 existing units of various ages in the fire department. We've took a look at those 33 units and feel pretty confident that we're able to bring that number down to 25 is what the need is within our organization. And each of those 33 units have each their end of service life. NFPA recommends and kind of keeps a hawk eye on the 15-year life expectancy of those, and many of those have already timed out or are reaching the point to which they are. The ones that we would be replacing would also have that same lifespan currently of 15 years before we would have to come back and look at replacing those probably long after I'm gone from here down the road. But again, the ones that we would be buying would be a significant safety upgrade from what we're using, just because so much technology has changed in the last 15 years in the realm of safety and firefighter well-being in the way that those are used. To make the selection and recommendation that we have tonight, the Anderson Fire Department established a committee from each one of the shifts and divisions within the department that conducted research, evaluation, and designed the specifications for the product that we felt best fit our department. We had the opportunity to bring 4 companies here into council chambers a little over 2 months ago and do interviews on their company. Each one of them were asked to leave 4 units with us that we've had for 8 weeks within the department, that the guys had the opportunity to train on, run scenarios, and even we've put them on trucks for an amount of time where they were able to run calls and really get an extended test drive more than just kicking the tires on the units that we have. Once we determined the product specs that we wanted, we sought bids from those 4 companies, and again, several of those companies had multiple vendors. 5 were received. One of those was a no bid. That committee took back and based on recommendations from those corporate interviews, in-house wear tests, service and warranty recommendations, and then obviously pricing went into the consideration for the package that we're requesting. Each of these 25 units, again, meet current NFPA specs for safety and reliability. We have requested additional communications capabilities in these above what the minimum standard is. An additional redundant air share system, meaning if a firefighter was operating inside of a building and either had an equipment failure or became trapped in the building, it allows them to easily share air between the units above what the minimum standard would be. And then we've asked for the inclusion of thermal imaging cameras onto the SCBA. Currently, the technology we have within the fire department provides 1 thermal imaging camera that rests kind of on the center console of each of the 4 responding apparatus, and the officer of that apparatus takes that camera, and those are pretty large cameras, and at the time were $15,000 to $20,000, and in today's generation with these packs, they're actually integrated into the SCBA, and again are a minimal cost of about $600 when you add it into the equipment, and it puts it into the hands of each firefighter rather than one person on the crew having that camera. When you look at the pricing from each of the 4 companies was comparable. The one addition above that the Draeger SCBA provided and that we're asking as part of the package is what's called Team Talk technology. Is that if you've ever watched Star Wars and heard Darth Vader talk, that is what firefighters sound like in a fire, with the addition of adrenaline rush and sirens and banging and lots of other noises going on, and it becomes very difficult to communicate. Masks today have the ability to where you can talk through your radio and it transmits out to a radio tower, then comes back in, and everybody's able to hear it, but these have a Team Talk capability in that the crew of 4 that's operating together, their breathing apparatus act as an intercom system. So without the need for them to key up the radio and talk across town to a radio tower and it come back on scene, this crew is able to easily communicate among themselves that I'm going left, you're going right, we've located the fire, we've located a victim, and again, they're just able to constantly talk among one another without going across a radio system that we feel is a huge advantage to the Draeger SCBAs over the other three that submitted bids. And again, while that comes at an additional cost that's included in that $309,000, that Team Talk alone was a $29,000 add-on. We feel pretty strongly it'll make a huge leap for the efficiency and safety of the firefighters as they operate each day. But again, we've taken a little over 2.5 months' time to really evaluate the products that were out there, the technology that was available to our folks, and feel like make a solid recommendation on what best fits the Anderson Fire Department. But we originally approached this as a FEMA grant process, and as we started writing that grant process, the ladies in finance came to us and said, we think we got a more solid solution, because again, that FEMA process is a very competitive grant cycle that you stand a pretty low percentage of success on. So we appreciate their support and being able to help us find the needed funding for this. And Mr. Harvin, we spoke earlier, this life and death piece of equipment that allows these guys to go out and do their job.
Okay, we can talk a bit more about the funding too. Appreciate that, Chief King. So during COVID, CDBG, you can remember there was a lot of money being pushed from the federal government, and they were trying to figure out how to push it out locally. And how they ended up doing that in many cases is through the CDBG as supplemental funds. So it doesn't have anything to do with our normal community development block grant program at all. They just use it as a formula to push it out to get to all the cities very quickly. So we receive CDBG, what we call the CARES fund money. And a lot of that was really geared around these bigger cities, because if you're thinking you're in DC and you're a legislator, you're around that environment a lot of urban legislators, and it was geared around cities like New York City that run the school district. They have medical facilities. They do a lot of other things, and we just weren't. I mean, when it comes down to a city that does the essential services and doesn't get into social services, doesn't get into medical facilities, or doesn't run the school district, those are very limiting what we can use it for. You can only buy so many masks and gloves and so forth, which we bought thousands and thousands of those. But with that, Ms. Margo Martin and her team were able to identify some restraints with the money that we were running up against the deadline on, which is that the funds have to be expended within 6 years, and 80% have to be expended within the third year, and we were carrying a balance of that. And so 80% has to be expended by October the 26th, 2026. So looking into the details of that, they were able to identify that this did qualify for the money, and so this is a good use of those funds. Otherwise, we're struggling to find additional uses for the COVID or the CARES fund monies. And so with that, would fund the purchase, and it would help with our drawdown. And so that's our recommendation to you tonight.
Thank you, Chief. Couple of things. Appreciate you thoroughness and involving your team in choosing the product. That was impressive. And I always appreciate not getting in trouble with CDBG and going up to Washington to explain why we're not spending money fast enough. But that's kind of a strange thing.
We've had some fun trips doing that.
Yep. So any questions? That was a lot, but questions, comments?
Not a question, I guess, not a comment. The remaining money that we have left, Chief, do we have any ideas how that money is going to be spent?
Are you talking about CDBG money?
Yeah.
Margaret, you want to answer that, kind of what the balance would be?
The balance.
After we spend this 80%?
The balance will be around 30,000. So at this time, no ma'am, we don't have an idea exactly. Yep. Tamara, to give out a little shout out, Tamara's the one that discovered you could use the breathing apparatuses. I appreciate the city manager saying I found it, but Tamara actually found it. But yeah, we have admin, there's additional paperwork we have to do in order to meet the compliance that we can get reimbursed for with this.
And there's a smaller balance too after that. I mean, still some medical supplies, because they use them every single day, medical supplies the fire department does, that we could probably purchase a little bit more there to get the rest of the balance. But It was an interesting set of money that came down. All that happened really quick, and everybody was scared to spend the money because the regulations weren't really out yet. Then they came out, and it was so geared towards very large cities. You know, Boston's, New York's, Washington D.C. It's not even geared towards Atlanta really, and it was interesting. So this is a creative approach to be able to use the funds that came down to us.
Good, thank you. Mr. Harvey?
So the new tanks, how long does the air actually last? Like if a firefighter goes into a burning structure with, you know, his new apparatus on, how long can he?
Great question. The air cylinders are designed for 45-minute air supply. My prime physical condition, that's about 30 minutes worth of air, and some of the athletes that we do have in the fire department can stretch those even longer. But again, it is based on the workload that they're in. So again, they're exerting pretty heavy work. It's going to cut that air supply down a good bit.
And what will happen to the old ones? Will they be? I mean, is there like?
Great question. So we have several options that are in front of us to consider, and delivery time on these is just a little over 2 months. So we've got some to work it out. One of the questions that we asked the vendors to supply in their bids was, what's your market for the existing equipment that we have? And right now the market is flooded with used fire equipment. So there's not a lot of resale value. One, because it's already beyond its life expectancy. It's 15 years old. The cylinders can't be recertified again. We've had some interest from the two career center schools in having them for training purposes there. The Anderson County Training Center that we're a partner in, has asked them for their instructor use and things like that. But our original hope was that there would be some resale value in them, almost like trading in a car, that we'd be able to add to this package a little bit, and there's not.
That's sort of why I was asking, because, I mean, you know, obviously, we're already partners in that. I don't know if they could use the career campus. That's certainly not my decision to make what happens to it, but that'd be a good thing. And the last question, I promise you, the team talk, so there's 5 people in there fighting a fire, and they can communicate amongst each other. So, and let's say that you're responding to the fire, driving down the road, can you hear that?
No, sir.
Okay.
We in the training that we've had with it, it's important that we told them we don't, in their training, we try and control the amount of radio traffic that goes out, because the apartment fire a few weeks ago behind Second Chance Church was a good example. There were so many folks working, county agencies that were responding in, dispatchers, that it just tied the radio up. And should there be an emergency or an issue, there wasn't the opportunity for folks to get on the air. So what we feel this will do will allow simple communications of where, even though we're standing a few feet from one another, we're not able to see. It'll allow conversations to happen while important messaging and urgent communications will be.
But you could, if you were on scene, you could hear those conversations going on inside the fire?
Yeah, but not away from the scene. It's meant for on scene within the structure among the team, because even the way that Anderson Fire Department operates, they operate in 4 teams, 3 engine companies, and even those teams wouldn't be listening to the other team, their conversation. It allows for each one of the companies to have essentially their own conversation as they work. So,
well, that was really not that important, but I was just wondering. And with that, Mayor, I'd make a motion we approve this. I think it's vital to our citizens and obviously our firefighters' safety.
Have a first by the Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
Second by Mr. John Roberts. Mr. Martinez.
No, it's good. Chief, I appreciate your due diligence on this, and I appreciate you making the recommendation of which institution you felt gave you the best safety and product that you needed. So thank you for that explanation.
Where is the company located, Chief?
The sales company for this one is located just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. However, they have service and vendors that would be in the Anderson area. But Draeger is actually only one of the 4 that's a worldwide. They're by far the largest producer of safety equipment in the world. So their parts are manufactured abroad, but they're put together in Pennsylvania is where they're manufactured and delivered from.
Thank you. Any other questions, Dr. Thompson?
You know, I think we've always had a top-notch fire department here. This should really keep us where we want to go.
Yes, ma'am. Thank y'all.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, Chief. Our fourth item is request consideration of an engineering contract for Wellington Mills and East Market Street water line replacement project. Mr. McEwen?
Okay, this project is a water line replacement project that's very much needed. Very old pipes that are in the ground, some undersized pipes as well. And this has been identified as part of our planning efforts to replace water lines throughout the city and our, not just the city, but also within our utilities territory, which is different than that of the city. It goes outside the city limits. And so with that, this request is for engineering. Mr. Scott Banks, our utility director, will go over the request.
Good evening. As Mr. McEwen said, we've had issues with pressure leaks and water quality in the Wellington Mills area and East Market Street areas for the last few years. Unfortunately, the only permanent solution is to replace the majority of those lines in both the areas. The replacement project would consist of the replacement of 6 and 2-inch water lines on the various streets within those two areas. This request is for the engineering services for the design, specifications, and bidding of the project. And KCI, who is on our engineering on-call list and has done several water projects for us, has submitted a proposal for $225,000. And this cost is approximately 8% of the estimated construction cost, which is well within industry norms for this type of project. And the scope of the contract, as I said, consists of the engineering for the design, permitting, and bidding of the project to remedy the water quality and pressure issues within these two areas of the city. Funding for the project, for the engineering services, would come from the water budget. In summary, staff is recommending contracting with KCI engineers for the design, bidding, and construction phase services for the water line replacement project in Wellington Mills and East Market Street areas for the city at a cost of $225,000.
Thank you, sir. Questions for Mr. Banks? Comments? Mr. Roberts, Jeff Roberts.
I realize engineering firms are selected based on qualifications.
Yes, sir.
Do you say that they are the best selection based on their expertise in water system designs and their availability?
They're among those that we've chosen on our on-call list, and they've done several water projects for us, and we've been more than pleased with the service that they've rendered.
And they're able to respond quickly?
Yes, sir.
And okay, and also just simple math, the cost of the project is going to be 2.8?
Yes, sir, roughly.
Roughly?
Yes, sir. That's the estimate. That's the estimate we've got so
And we're
far.
prepared to move forward with that, assuming that we fund it?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Do we have the funding to pay for this?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Was this part of the bigger presentation of several different projects?
It was, yeah, it was when we had the utilities work session, it was in there. I know we had a lot of sewer infrastructure in there, but these distribution lines, we're on really start zeroing in on replacement in these neighborhoods because they're old and it's time for them to be replaced, and it takes a lot of manpower for the service needs to get out there too, as we have a lot of service calls in the areas.
Got a lot of replacements over the next decade. It just keeps going.
Never stops in utilities either.
How many how many firms do we have on our on-call list?
They're qualified in different
Different areas,
sectors
but
that
maybe
we have.
in this area we.
Yeah, in the water side.
KCI and
What do you have?
I know we've got at least 5 to 6.
5 or 6?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Mayor, you'd be familiar that this used to be Holsey, McCormick, and Wallace.
Yep.
That they changed their name during some different, I guess, kind of the same thing with Design South as they
Gotcha.
were merged with somebody else.
Yep. Any other questions?
I make motion we approve the engineering contract with KCI Engineers.
First by the Mayor Pro Tem, second by Dr. Thompson. Any further discussion, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Banks. Our last item is a request approval for fixed income investments of funds. Mr. McEwen.
Okay, again, unique opportunity that we're in right now with the market, and being an institution, that we normally don't have this opportunity, to invest. We're so limited by state law what we can invest in, that it's, we're usually not able to have much interest on our deposits. So in this case, again, as you know, we've been doing these rolling deposits and putting out requests for bids strictly for CDs. And I'll let Ms. Margo Martin put this together for us and went out with the proposals, her and her team. So if you want to present this item, thank you, Ms. Martin.
Sure. So as David has mentioned, the city does have an opportunity to earn more from its cash than our working capital balances that we currently are earning 2.19% on. So our primary objective of the city's investment activities are to ensure that the city is investing legally, as David mentioned, and that they're properly collateralized and provide the best rate of returns. And as you may recall, the city did invest $8 million in December, with rates ranging from 4.62 to 4.05%. And those investments will net the city over $500,000. So based on our current cash liquidity, we plan to invest $3.5 million in fixed income for 6 months. So we incorporated a competitive bidding process for the authorized CDs. Rate quotes were sent to 24 financial institutions, and we received 9 responses, which are listed in your summary. There is a wide range of rates, with some institutions stating that they just currently don't have an appetite for this type of investment. So because we had some less than 1%, all the way up to the award-winning one of 5.12% with TD Bank that's fully collateralized, and that is our recommendation to invest in that on Wednesday, April, sorry, it's an A month, April 26th.
It is April. Could you, thank you. Can y'all give us a high-level overview of what the state will and will not allow municipalities to?
We cannot, one, we have to be collateralized, so 100%, in excess of the 250 that the FDIC has, we have, an institution taking on our investment has to ensure that it's in our name and it's fully collateralized. We cannot lose any principal. So that limits you to CDs, money market, treasury notes.
No securities.
No securities, no stocks, no managed portfolio type investments. We need guaranteed. We had some responses that gave a good rate, but then they're like, well, they're not going to guarantee it. Well, we have to have that.
Thank you.
And our auditors actually check that as part of the auditing process. They call all the banks that we have deposits in and verify that through documentation. Also, we have another option that we can invest in the local government investment pool. It's a state investment pool. It's basically bring everybody's money together, about $1 billion in there that's managed by the state. It's yielding about 4.8% right now, so it's continuing to go up. Of course, with that big deposit, I think everybody's kind of after it as well, so it's producing a yield now. But we move money in and out of there because there's you can do it within a 24-hour period. You can just move money in, and 24 hours later you can move it out. It's not locked in for 6 months, so that works well for us. But this was a good opportunity. You can see the interest. That's kind of interesting. Some yielding interest from us from $89,000 to the lowest being $13,000 for $3.5 million. So this is a good additional money to our treasury.
I agree. Any other comments, questions? Mr. Harvey?
Mayor, I appreciate the work from Margo's department on getting all these bids and making sure they're back to us. And I had an opportunity to look at them, and I think that's a very competitive bid. I would, my advice would be to keep up with, when they're gonna, I know y'all know when they're gonna be due and what are their options. Because we're in a rising interest rate environment now, and when things rise, things tend to fall at some point in time. And, this is great that 89,000, we can buy some more of those air tanks, because that's money we are planning on having. That's a joke, but, with that, I'd make a motion that we, do the request for approval of fixed income investments.
First by the Mayor Pro Tem,
Second.
second by Mr. Martinez. Any comments, questions further? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Wise decision.
Thank you.
That is it for our meeting. I guess I will just say that the soiree is Friday and Saturday. We're talking, Mr. Martinez says we make a proclamation that it will not rain at all. So we'll make that proclamation. But we've got a couple busy days ahead of us, so looking forward to that, Thursday, Friday. So I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
First by the Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
Second by Mr. John Roberts. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned.